Morning, everybody. This is Hurricane Hal live from Galveston Beach. Today is Friday, August 25th. I'm here with your tropical weather update from Galveston. Y'all, a lot going on in the tropics, and I have a sand map for you today, which we'll be talking about some general concepts for tropical cyclones and preparedness, and a lot about timing on the broadcast today. Well, first, let's start with Tropical Storm Franklin. It survived the passage over Hispaniola. Now it's strengthening a little bit. It's a tropical storm with maximum sustained winds of 60 miles an hour, moving to the east-northeast around 6. It's starting to make that curve eventually to the northeast and the north, and then the wind shear will really die down. We're expecting Franklin to become a hurricane and likely pass west of Bermuda, a 40% chance of tropical storm force winds on Bermuda. And actually the western fringe of Franklin could impact New England with tropical storm force winds. We now have a 10% chance of tropical storm force winds in places like Cape Cod and Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket. So something we'll have to watch, but keep in mind, a large, powerful hurricane moving offshore from the East Coast, you're still going to get big waves and coastal erosion. Y'all, let's talk about the Gulf, though, today. There's potential for a tropical system in the Gulf next week. I have a sand map here. We're going to talk all about that. This has been a feature that we've been talking about for a few days now. It's really interesting. The Euro and the GFS, or the American model, has some different solutions with this, but this is our sand map. We're drawing this in the sand, and there's a broad area of low pressure, and now the National Hurricane Center, where I put the sargassum seaweed there, it looks like it's becoming more likely, 70% chance that we would see at least a tropical depression form there in the northwestern Caribbean. Now, the GFS, or American model, has been very conservative and not really showing much with this week, but now it's starting to pick up that there may be something there. Again, the National Hurricane Center kind of going a little more with the Euro here and thinking that something may form. It looks like something could form later this weekend, maybe Sunday into Monday, possibly a tropical depression or tropical storm there near the northern tip of the Yucatan Peninsula. And then the general guidance with this is to bring it to the north and east, potentially off the west coast of Florida by maybe next Tuesday or Wednesday. It's something that we'll have to watch. And one of the topics I want to talk about here on the broadcast, until we have a closed circulation around a well-defined center, until we have the genesis of a tropical cyclone, it's really hard to predict where that's going to form, the timing of when it's going to form, and then the track. You need to know where it is before you know where it's going to go. Again, we don't even have a system out there. We just have a broad area of low pressure. So until things become a little more clear, we should expect a lot of changes and uncertainty in the forecast. The second thing I wanted to talk about, though, this is a general principle that I thought really interesting. The latest runs I saw of the Euro show something trying to form here, maybe as a tropical depression, say on like later Monday or Monday night. I was looking at a specific model run that showed a tropical depression here, say Monday night, maybe around midnight, and then potentially a tropical storm over here off the west coast of Florida, maybe impacting places like Metro Tampa by potentially midday Wednesday. Again, don't take these numbers too specifically. Things could change a lot. But look at this. When I looked at this, Monday night, maybe around midnight, Wednesday midday, that's just a 36-hour difference from this becoming possibly a tropical depression here in the Yucatan to a tropical storm in the west coast of Florida. And again, the specifics may change, but the principle here, we were talking this week on the National Tropical Weather Conference about how a lot of our plans, sometimes, especially emergency management, they talk about what are we going to do 120 hours before landfall, 96 hours before landfall, 72 hours before landfall. We assume that we have these long runs of time where we're seeing something come off the coast of Africa, or we're seeing a system track across the Atlantic, and we have a lot of time. Y'all, in the past 6 years, we've had 5 rapidly intensifying hurricanes right before landfall, not leaving us enough time. We talked on the National Tropical Weather Conference this week about how New Orleans was not evacuated from Hurricane Ida in 2021. A big part of that was it just ramped up so quickly from a Cat 1 to a Cat 4. There was not enough time to get everyone out. You need 72 hours to evacuate New Orleans. So, again, the principle here in general, keep in mind, when a system in general forms here off the Yucatan, or it's here in the Yucatan Channel or Western Cuba, it can be a very short amount of time until it's here in west coast of Florida. And that's just a principle. Again, we saw a little bit of that last year with Ian, how quickly Ian went from here by Western Cuba over to Fort Myers. It doesn't take much time at all. So, y'all, you may not have 96 hours. You may not have 72 hours. This is a time really you should have a go bag. I'm not saying that anything catastrophic is imminent next week, but just a general principle. Sometimes we think we have more time than we do. You should have a food supply. You should have battery backups. if a tropical storm moves into the west coast of Florida next week, you may not want to evacuate, but it may knock out power for 3 days. How are you going to charge your cell phone? Do you have water and food supply? Do you have everything you need? Do you have the medicines you need? Have you been to the pharmacy and stocked up on your medical supply? All these types of things, y'all. This is a time of year that we should be doing anyway, preseason from hurricanes. But just keep in mind, when I was looking at some of these time runs, again, possibly 36 hours from a depression here to a tropical storm there. And again, things can change in a hurry. Until we get a storm actually forming, we have a lot of uncertainty. Not out of the question that we couldn't see a Category 1 hurricane in the west coast of Florida next week. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but again, we have to keep an open mind to all possibilities. And I just noticed with some of these model runs, it's not a lot of time from something in the Yucatan to something in the west coast of Florida. Just don't want to see people blindsided or taken off guard. I'll be updating the forecast here every morning for sure. But again, a 70% chance of tropical development in the Western Caribbean, possibly something moving in general into the Eastern Gulf. We're not expecting this system to move in the Western Gulf, but we could have a system in the Eastern Gulf really next week, say in the Tuesday to Wednesday time frame. Y'all, before I sign off, it's a beautiful morning here in Galveston. Yesterday was our hottest air temperature of the summer so far, 99 degrees, y'all. It's been a hot one, I know, all along the Gulf Coast. We're expecting mid to upper 90s again over the next couple days. And I'm going to be talking a little bit tomorrow on the forecast about the drought. We have something called flash drought. It's been so hot, so dry for so long. The drought conditions are getting really extreme and exceptional and very severe out here in the Western Gulf. We'll be talking about that a little bit on the broadcast tomorrow. Everyone have a great Friday. Give me a shout out. Let me know where you're watching from. Again, beautiful conditions here on the island. We're watching this tropical system that may form and impact the Eastern Gulf by early to middle of next week. Everyone have a great day. I'll be back with you Saturday morning. This is Hurricane Hal signing off from Galveston.